Welcome everybody. I was just SMSing and messaging my team to say what an excellent opening video, which I clearly sent way too soon because I should have waited for those last 5 seconds there. So this is called a Roundtable Rumble, although I'm hoping there's not going to be any military action, and rather the only rumble will be the rumbling of our tummies as we wait for lunch, or as we count down to lunch. So welcome everybody to this live EBnet in the Moment webinar. Welcome specifically to our community of trustees, management committees, advisors, investment and human capital professionals, the regulators who may be on the call for today, as well as any members of the press. But a particular welcome to Liberty Corporate Benefits, who are our sponsors for today. And at EBnet, before we welcome our esteemed panelists who are ready to rumble, waiting in the green room, at EBnet, we always try and bring you content that stimulates thinking and that takes the conversation and the collaboration in this industry forward. And we bring this quality content to you free of charge. So all we ask from you in helping us do this is that you follow us on EBnet, you subscribe to my daily newsletter, and you follow us on EBnet Stream on LinkedIn, and that will help keep us in the picture and help us bring you the content and the quality stuff that we keep bringing you. So having said that, I need to deal with some housekeeping issues for today. The first is, I see you've all already learned the chat bar. You are welcome to comment and contribute to the conversation today using the chat bar. Assuming we do have some quiet people on the call, I have loaded in some polls which we're going to ask you to complete. These polls today are anonymous, and it really is just to stimulate some of the thinking for today's conversation. Please feel free to participate. We'll also throw in some handouts there that you can look at, but we'll monitor the chat bar and make sure that all your pressing questions are dealt with. In terms of CPD hours for today, we will send the session off for an application for this hour to be verified, but I can't assure you that a point will be granted because I don't yet know where this conversation will go. And so we will send it off. If you are eligible, we will be contacting you and making sure that you get that certificate. And to get that CPD hour, we obviously need to spend an hour on the content, so you can expect to be finished around 1:05. So without any further ado on the housekeeping issues, while the ladies are coming on stage, we're going to play a video for you from our sponsors, Liberty Corporate Benefits.
At Liberty Corporate Benefits, we believe that better benefits are better for business. That's why our holistic employee benefits give your employees financial security and lifestyle stability, freeing them up to be their best selves at work. With satisfied, engaged employees, productivity shoots up, workplace errors and loss decrease, absenteeism and presenteeism are reduced, and you attract and retain the best and brightest talent. After all, if you take care of your people, they'll take care of your business. Our brilliant basics are the non-negotiables that explain why more companies choose us than any other for employee benefits. Our employee benefits are easy and flexible, personal and relevant, and resource-backed, with investment solutions designed to help your employees retire comfortably, comprehensive cover that protects your employees and their families, financial literacy initiatives to help your employees make the most of their money, and a range of value-added services for holistic care and support. We make it easy to take care of your people and prove that employee benefits can also be employer benefits. Speak to us about getting the benefit advantage. Liberty Corporate Benefits.
Okay, so while we wait for the tech to download everybody, up there they all are, I'm going to take a moment and introduce you to our panelists today. I wonder if you can maybe give a wave, as I mentioned your name. So we start with Lindiwe Monyai, who is the Managing Executive of Liberty Corporate Benefits. Hi, Lindy, lovely to see you. Rosemary Hunter, who I don't think needs any introduction to this crowd, but she's an attorney at Baskin, and we'll leave it at that for now. Cherie Dyer, who is the CEO at Prescient Investment Management. Eva Majorova, who is the head of institutional business at Signia. And last but definitely not least is Fatima Border, who I'm sure also requires no introduction to this audience, who is the founder and CEO of 274. Welcome, ladies. And today I want to have a conversation around this topic, Women in Finance, which is the name and the kind of label that we gave today's session. But I'm going to exercise editorial privilege and take that from a bit of a wider stance and really coming at it from two parts. The first is, and it's an acknowledgement to the fact that we have a seat at the table. But the question is, why are we not comfortable to filling it or comfortable in filling it? So I want to, as I say, deal with this in two parts. The first being around self-advocacy, which I think needs a conversation, and I have no doubt we have some thoughts around the table on that. And the second then is around the financial appropriateness or the appropriateness of financial products, specifically for women, and what is available out there for us. So kind of two interpretations of finance, us at a boardroom table versus us and the spending of our money and the investing of our assets. But I want to start with self-advocacy. And as my colleagues will know, I always do an obscene amount of research and prep for these webinars. And so I'm going to start with some of the research here. And really, just to say, women earn just over 72 Rand for every 100 Rand earned by men. We make up 46% of the economically active population, yet we hold only 27% of the top management positions. And that's thanks to a report by Just Share we've recently seen. 3% of listed JSE company CEOs are women. And we know that studies highlight that women tend to be more risk averse or less overconfident than men. And for me, this comes into kind of job application behavior. So again, talking to this thing of, I don't fill all the criteria for a specific job, and so I'm not going to apply for it. We're going to launch our first poll, and while we're doing that and everybody's answering, because it will set the scene for us, we do know that there's a McKinsey report that shows us that diversity and diverse leadership, be those across gender, ethnicity, etc., do outperform. So diverse leadership teams do outperform. So the question is, we know that we have these issues and these gaps. We also know that we are being afforded opportunities. So this is not a normal, Women's Day discussion where we talk about, why we don't have the seat at the table. It's more from a point of view of why are we not taking it? And so this concept of self-advocacy, Lindy, I'm going to start with you because you're the sponsor today, so you get sponsor's privilege. I'm going to start with you. Perhaps you can share with us what you believe self-advocacy to be.
Good afternoon, Natalie, and I'm really happy to be here this afternoon with everyone. And so thank you for the opportunity. I think for me, self-advocacy speaks to a number of things. The first one is belief. So if you don't believe in yourself, it's very difficult to convince anyone else that they should be believing in you. And as women generally, we tend to find a lot of fault compared to our counterparts. And we aim for perfection rather than progress. So I think that's the first thing. The second one talks to being able to articulate what it is that we are after, what makes us tick, what's we passionate about. And so that talks to the people around us, the people that lead us, those that we lead must be clearly aware of what it is that we are after at an individual level. And then the third one is having the resilience to see through, because along the way, you don't get what you want, you have barriers. And so self-advocacy for me means even when it gets difficult, you must be able to push through towards that particular goal. So it's not an easy ride. I don't think it's an easy thing to do, but it is about belief and seeing through your goals and making it clear what it is that you are chasing for yourself, and then convincing those around you.
Does anybody want to add to that, perhaps?
I can add to that. So hello from me as well, and thanks very much for having me. It's a privilege to be here. I think of advocacy as a form of self-care, and self-care is often just thought of in terms of resting and mindfulness and exercise, but a deeper form of self-care is actually just protecting your value, honoring your worth, understanding your boundaries, and then with that growing your confidence. So it's kind of the voice that you need to thrive, not just at work, but in life as well.
Anybody else for further? Thanks, Rose. Oh, Fatima.
Go for it, Fatima.
Yeah, so I'm going to come in from a very different angle, and I'm going to come in from the perspective of the workplace. And as you know, I've been very involved in producing a lot of data on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and last year launched a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Index. And it wasn't just about the numbers, it was about sourcing the actual governance policies in asset management firms and how what is it that their policies actually say about the participation of women in their companies. And you will be shocked and surprised when you actually read the policies that our large, medium, and small corporates have in place when it comes to simple things like parental leave or maternity leave. They all had so many different policies. There was a policy, if you have one child, your first maternity leave numbers are different if you have a second child, if you adopt a child, so much spoke to the culture of the organizations. We asked questions and we wanted to see policies around pay parity. We wanted to see policies on career advancements and how it actually works within the organization. And we collected a total of 550 policies, and we had a team of experts that read through all of these policies to identify inconsistencies around equality, diversity, inclusion, the culture of organizations. And what we found was, as I said earlier, some were very good, but some were very poor. And as an employee in a corporate, in a financial services company, your best form of advocacy is to understand the rules of the game within your organization, to understand corporate policies. And one way of driving advocacy is to go to your head of HR and say, here's the employee handbook. Please explain to me in this employee handbook why I am getting less leave than my male counterpart. And that's such a fantastic way, because often these biases are not done because they want to do them. It's just because people don't focus on these policies. And so that indirectly these things happen. But, it's not because someone's trying to be prejudiced or something like that. So my greatest form of advocacy for women in corporate South Africa is read your employee handbook. Thank you.
Rose, your commentary.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful, but I want to get back to what Lindy was saying. I think we do have this sort of imposter syndrome. We're taught not to brag. I used to be astounded when I first started as a young trainee lawyer, how my male colleagues were bragging, and it helped them. Our bosses didn't seem to mind, and they got promoted more quickly than I did. And I realized when I got cross about this, and next time there was a performance review, I listed all the things that I did, because they're not just fees, but going off and, promoting transformation, supporting young lawyers, pro bono work, all those various things. And when I got to my performance review, they said, but why didn't you tell us this before? I think many of us expect people to notice. And we actually have to get over ourselves and put it out there and keep our CVs and our note down everything that we do, because people don't notice unless you put it in their faces. And we have to teach our young women colleagues that that's okay to actually brag about what you do. Obviously, there are ways of doing it that don't have to be offensive, and and so on, but just make sure that people know what you're doing. But I also think what Fatima was saying was very helpful. We need to help shape those policies in our organizations.
I want to jump in here at this point and say that we're talking self-advocacy. So that is really, in my mind, and perhaps we need to just clarify what that means, but it really is exactly what Rose has said, fighting for yourself. And for me, having the confidence, right, to put yourself forward. So we use the word brag, which I hate, because just because I'm saying something positive about myself, look how it even talks to the way we phrase ourselves when we're speaking, even amongst ourselves. And not the 200 or so people on the call, but we call it bragging, and yet it's simply highlighting what we've done well. And so for me, there's an element of confidence there. And I want to unpack why we possibly feel that we don't have this platform to advocate for ourselves. And here I perhaps want to also touch on Fatima again and just ask her, kind of in your opinion, what are the obstacles to this confidence? Is it a socialization thing? Is it I don't know. Perhaps you can share your experience and your research here.
Yeah, so I think it's really a structural issue. And again, I'm going to come with very practical examples of, for example, the asset management industry. And, invisibility of women portfolio managers is a huge problem. So, there's a lot of women portfolio managers that in fact manage money across South Africa's asset management industry, but they're invisible. So we need to make them visible. And so one of the things we introduced last year was a gender monthly survey across all asset classes, where we created awareness around fund manager performance. Now, the other issue that we have in South Africa is that women managed funds are generally much smaller than male managed portfolios. So you'd go to a big corporate asset manager and you'd see a general equity fund managed by a team of men is probably 20 billion rands in size. But then you've got this little portfolio on the side that is maybe a niche portfolio of resources that is only 300 million rands managed by women. That's also another issue. So for me, it's about creating awareness and visibility, because we do exist. And in fact, if you look at our monthly gender.economic survey, you'll see women managing money across all the different asset classes, private markets, public markets, hedge funds, equities, bonds, global, etc. But the size of the portfolios that they're managing is very small, and there's not enough awareness around how good the investment performance is. So business development practitioners in the industry, etc., they tend to also focus on showcasing very specific products as opposed to putting the women in those organizations forward as well.
I want to challenge that. And we're sitting around the table and it's a safe space. And I want to say, okay, so I'm a woman, I'm an asset manager, I've got a small portfolio compared to my male counterparts. And I mean, just the results of the poll that we threw out when we started was that women certainly feel that there is this pay gap and that it's real. Why are those asset managers not profiling themselves? And so we can have policies, and we as an industry or as a legislator, we're going to get to a conversation perhaps around that later, but we can legislate, we can have policy, we can do all the surveys, but why are women not putting this conversation on the map themselves, those particular portfolio managers?
Because the portfolio manager is a technical expert managing money. There is a team of people that decide what is going to be put out in the public, what is going to be showcased, what are we going to put at the next Patsita conference, who are we going to put on the panel. That's not the portfolio manager. That's the army of people around that business that makes decisions on who is going to be in the corporate report that is going out in the Financial Mail.
Sure. Rosemary, I'm going to look here to you because I know that you are not shy to have the difficult conversations. So I wonder from from your perspective,
Yeah.
do you find women, I'm going to say, reluctant to advocate for themselves, and why, and what would your reasons for that be in terms of your experience?
Well, first of all, yeah, I might have had some public difficult conversations, but they were as hard for me as they are for anybody, I can assure you. And
that's important to say. That's important to say. Even somebody like Rose Hunter, who we know can be a controversial voice, you also find it difficult. So thank you for giving us that permission. But anyway, back to what you were saying.
Well, my boss said I lodged a grievance against him as an outlet for my emotions. So
Wow.
not because I had reason to object to his behavior. So there is a lot of that around. And that was certainly not my current firm. That was my previous employment, the most controversial one. But and that's public record. That I think, well, there are those kind of responses sometimes that anybody who wants to raise a difficult conversation, well, they say that she must be the problem. And she and often attribute it to emotions, or, well, she must be menopausal, or whatever it is. Those kind of attacks are easy for powerful people to make. And so I think we're all responsible for trying to create an environment where it is safe for all of us, especially women, and maybe especially young women, to raise issues, and particularly whistleblowers. We need talking about legislation. We need to approve the protection, and we need to but not just legislation. We need the procedures. We need to make it safe. We need to be able to make it women respected for being able to say things that men often say, without that kind of questioning about their emotional health and that sort of thing.
Great answer, Eva. We've opened the conversation around youngsters, and I mean, I'm not pointing fingers to anybody around the table, but I think you might be the youngest. And I kind of have this impression in my mind that you're deep in the throes of mommydom, right? And deep in the parenting trenches. And I kind of, doing research for today, I heard this phrase for the first time: motherhood penalty. Is this perhaps something you could shed some light on, or share your experiences?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the concept of the motherhood penalty is just this assumption that once you become a mom, you are no longer as available to potentially travel for work, or as ambitious, and big projects maybe won't get given to you. Whereas the dads are taken more seriously once you become a father. The workplace will assume that you're now a whole lot more ambitious, and they get rewarded for that. This is a serious man, he has a family to look after, whereas the way women get viewed is the total opposite. And I think what we really need to address is the disconnect between this assumption and the actual reality. I know for myself, and I'm sure my fellow panelists and a lot of other women on the call, when we become moms, we actually become a whole lot more ambitious. That was definitely the case for me. I now want to set an example. I want to, I'm taking savings more seriously, planning for the future more seriously. So in fact, I am working harder. I'm managing my time more effectively. There's a saying about the more you have on the plate, the more productive you become. And I think that self-advocacy in motherhood should be about showcasing all those strengths as women, as moms, the fact that, time management and empathy and the way we're able to look after families and just play all these different roles. I think these are real strengths that we can bring to the workplace.
I want to touch on this mommydom topic a little bit deeper, and it really relates to a question that Lulama has asked. And it says, perhaps we need to look at how we raise our children differently, boys versus girls. Maybe this phenomenon starts at home and then permeates right into the workplace. I'm going to throw this open to anybody who would like to answer this, or perhaps offer their thoughts on this. No, Lindy?
So I think for me, I have two boys. One is 16, the other one is 32. And what's been interesting is that they started, when they were given chores, they would go, this is for a girl. I couldn't be washing dishes or cleaning up in the kitchen. This is girls' work. And the question would be, who's the girl here? Are you meaning that me, who's coming from work, the same person who must take you to school, same person who must look after you with all your needs, must be the one who's also cleaning up after you? And so it became a good conversation point about what's for girls and what's for boys. And I think as parents, we have a big role in shifting the stereotypes about what is acceptable for a girl and what's acceptable for a boy. When I was growing up, my dad used to say, the first thing you need to learn is change your light bulb yourself and your tire. Because then you won't depend, you won't have a dependence on a guy to do those things. They're simple. Just get on a stool and change the light bulb. So I think parents play a big role. What we say to our kids, even in jest, what we watch, it re-emphasizes those stereotypes.
Sure.
And so I think that is especially boys' parents, boys, because that's the easiest part. If you teach a boy the right stuff, they then do it for themselves, but also for whoever they have a partner and relationships later on. And girls need the same assurance. If you need to do work in a specific way, if you need to be in a specific way, if you need to be studying something that is seen only for boys, just do it. You know different. Engineering is for everyone. Actuarial science is for everyone. So I think we as parents have a big role.
I'm gonna jump in here and perhaps put the cat amongst the pigeons and say I have a boy child and a girl child. Now, interestingly, my boy child is studying teaching, typically a girl's career or a girl's occupation or stream, and my girl child is studying actuarial science. Now, does that make me a great parent? Or kind of, I look at that as you were talking, Lindy, I was thinking, crumbs. I, as a woman, I appreciate the ability that my daughter can go and study actuarial science, but I also appreciate that her boyfriend, when she walks to the car, opens the car door for her. So I guess my question is, what do us as women want? Cherie, you've been very quiet, so I'm going to look to you here to go to perhaps offer your thoughts.
The conversation was carrying on. I was just thinking about gender stereotyping as a departure point. I think post the COVID world, or what COVID taught us really was that flexibility can work, and that we should change how we see things. So life is now outcomes based, not how long you sit at your desk and when you join or come to the office and when you leave. And that's been good for everyone, because I think once the stereotype of a man does this and the woman does that comes to an end, then things will start changing. The system will change, because I always think in asset management in particular, there's something wrong with the system, not the women. So if you see in a calendar now, the male portfolio managers also have to go and watch their daughters play netball, or whereas before as a woman, I've got two girls, I would hide that in my calendar, not because I had to, but because I just didn't want to be seen to be that one when I was much younger. So I think just breaking down those barriers within the asset management space in particular would go a long way to just changing the perceptions around things. And I guess to each his own. I mean, there's a place for everything. So yeah, whether it's traditional or non-traditional, I think that's also kind of the world we live in, where we have choice. So I can't comment on opening your son or the boyfriend opening the car door. My husband's never done that for me.
Eva, I saw you giggle at that. Do you have thoughts around the kind of what do we want as women and how would we want to be treated?
Yes, I think I agree that we should move away from stereotypes when it comes to careers, but we should not move away from who we are as women and who men should be as men. So opening the car doors and having the manners and that, protective element of a man wanting to, look after a lady is I believe, a good thing. And then as women, we should not shy away from, even if we are in power positions, from our gentle nature, our caring nature. So we should remain who we are, but just I do feel very strongly about the stereotypes, just like Cherie said, around, careers and, what women can or can't do or should or shouldn't do. But no, not shy away from who we are.
I will admit that I've also hidden the netball watching extramurals in my calendar. And as Cherie was talking about that, I was thinking, kind of, why did I do that? And I guess it goes to the age-old kind of suburban legend that a man in a board meeting who says, "Crumbs, I have to leave now because I've got my kiddies, prize giving," is lauded and applauded. Whereas if a woman were to say the same thing in a board meeting, I'm not sure she'd get the same reception from her colleagues. And so before we get on to Cynthia's question, I want to talk and just kind of close this conversation around men, women, careers, and a comment that Karen's made, or Karen, I'm not sure how to say that. Sorry, Karen, if I've mispronounced. My son was recently told therapy isn't a good career choice. And so that talks to how slowly the career space is changing, or the role perceptions or gender perceptions are changing. But just Cynthia, and I'm going to highlight a question because it is a great one. As a young woman in financial services, how does one dominate in a world or an industry traditionally kind of filled and positions filled by men? Fatima, I think this is going to be to your liking, this kind of question. Do you perhaps want to start this conversation for us?
Yeah, so I mean, if we just have to rewind to 1994 and look at the South African asset management industry and the level of transformation, there was a handful of like 5 portfolio managers in South Africa that were Black. And if we fast forward 30 years into democracy, more than 3/4, more than 75% of our industry is now Black-owned, managed, and controlled in terms of transformation. And that just didn't happen because it needed to happen. It needed to happen, but there was advocacy, there was awareness, there's legislation, there was pressure coming from asset allocators and those in the position of influence. And what we are beginning to see now is that those same people that influenced, those same organizations that influenced change when it came to transformation are now advocating for women participation. And so I'm actually quite pleased. We are seeing very, very good progress across the industry, across the board, of the demand for female talent, the demand for women talent, both in analyst positions and, career advancements into portfolio management roles, but also on the operational side. And people always shy away and they think that the sexy part of asset management is being in the investment side. But increasingly, given the complexity of financial services businesses, the operational side, in fact, is attracting a lot of highly skilled professional people like CAs and engineers, software developers, with AI changing the industry. And there is great demand for women across the board. And South Africa fares very favorably compared to global jurisdictions. We, in fact, are breaking the glass ceiling a lot more than a lot of the developed world. I recently got back from one of the leading universities globally. My son was doing an honors in artificial intelligence and computer science. And I went for the graduation, and the most horrific thing was that there was not a single girl that graduated in that department. in that specific qualification. I sit on the board of governors at Wits University, and I'm so proud to say that 60% of our students at Wits University across all the disciplines, on average, are women.
Sure, that's lovely.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. Lindy's been too quiet, so I'm going to put her on the spot. So we can see that the narrative is changing, right? And we see these fantastic stats coming out of Wits and STEM learning, and my daughter always says #girls in STEM, right? And those of you who know will know. But Lindy, how do I ask for a salary increase?
I'm the wrong person to ask that question. But I think outside of jokes, I think there's two things. There are people who can very well articulate their worth. I think Rosemary mentioned it earlier in that performance review that she said. Some people are very good at saying what they do, how well they do it, the impact they're having in an organization, and be able to convince whoever they need to convince around remuneration. Some people are not. And often the ones that are not articulate find themselves in a corner or trapped because they don't have the words to articulate what they do, how well they do it, and how well they do it, against other people, in comparison to other people. So I find that when the words fail you in verbal requests, writing something down is better. Because there you can change it, you can reread it, you can update it. The point is you must ask. So asking the question is what is important. Because I think even thinking about, am I good enough to be asking the question? Am I doing enough to be asking? How am I comparing myself to other people? Those are all the things that sit in your brain and you go over and over, and whereas just asking is what is important. So for me, it is just making sure that if you don't have the articulation, write it down, but ask.
Such a good tip. And I want to highlight this question that came in from Losh. Thank you for the excellent conversation and insights. How do we collaborate as females in a win-win manner to celebrate each other and without feeling this excluded and valued? Now, I'm going to take Losh's question, and if I may just tweak it a little bit. And I have a personal life motto that goes, you don't need someone to lose for you to win, right? We can all win. And we in fact, we all win when we all win. And when one of us loses, we all lose. And so Losh's question applies to kind of us collaborating as women, but I want to extend that more to women and men. And what I'm talking about here is not women winning by men losing, but rather how do we give each other permission to show up as our authentic selves and to bring out the best in each other. And so Losh's question is around women and women collaborating. Any thoughts around that? Eva, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you that, we can all win. I think we should be celebrating each other, encouraging each other. And also when you are helping somebody else, that favor will be returned. So it will come back to you, tenfold. So I think that if you have women around you that you can celebrate, highlight their wins, even if returning the favor doesn't come from them, that good deed will be seen, and we will all win in that way.
Fatima, thoughts?
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, you've just muted yourself again. I think you double clicked.
Okay, so that should be back on. So I think collaboration is fantastic across men and women. I'm going to speak a little bit about something very interesting that we did recently. We launched what we call Fund Her Forward program. And it was really to find a solution to the problem that women were having in the private equity space. So what the problem women were facing in the private equity space was that if those of you who know how private equity works, you launch a fund and you get to first close. Women in general were taking 10 times longer to get to first close than a male fund would take to get to first close. And what happens during that period is that they lose opportunities to do deals because they lose those deals. They're taking a lot more time to raise capital. So we launched a warehousing facility where we would warehouse those transactions in the meantime while women private equity managers could get to first close, and also provide them with support during that period. And a lot of male leadership within in the industry came on board to support this initiative, and it was a collaborative exercise by sharing the challenges that women face, and collectively as a group we got this over the line. And I'm so proud to say we've supported so many deal warehousing opportunities across the board for women. And that's also allowed them to showcase a fantastic track record and raise capital on the back of that. So yeah, there are mechanisms. Once you identify the issue and the problem, collectively you can sit around the table and say, how do we solve for this? And there are ways of solving for it by having these conversations.
I'm gonna touch on, Rose. I'm actually going to come to you because it's something that you said earlier when you spoke about the emotional word that was used in response to an action that you took, and immediately my mind went to, and I even mentioned it at the time. I said, sure, if this is happening to Rosemary Hunter, my goodness me, it gave me permission to actually feel okay in situations where it may have applied to me or it may have applied to somebody else in the room. And so for me, there is this kind of giving each other permission. And so I want to talk to you about that, but you wanted to make a comment first. Perhaps you can start.
Thank you. I think what Fatima's project is fantastic. There's another huge challenge that particularly women, but not only women, face. And it affects their financial capacities and so on. But we have a situation where if you land up being the main custodian of children, you've divorced, you're separated from your partner, whatever it is, women they have to fight really hard to get the father or the partner to contribute their financial share. And you have to prove how much you're spending, and the partner is not there, doesn't understand that the child needs extra money to go on a bus trip to the zoo with the school, and has to borrow a friend's stationery at school because there isn't enough, and so on. Even at the level of professional companies, I've seen women's confidence being undermined by this constant financial strain they're under because our maintenance system doesn't work. And it's a secret. You don't talk about it at work. It's your personal stuff, or you're not encouraged to talk about your challenge, and your company is not coming to help you. And I think it's something that we need to think about, because it prevents not only the ability, and particularly, but as I say, not only women, to advance themselves, to present themselves confidently and so on. It takes their bandwidth, takes their confidence. It's emotionally sapping. It's obviously financially sapping. It makes it difficult for you to be able to put more money to your retirement savings, as much as you might otherwise been able to do. And I think particularly big organizations, but we need to think about ways of how you can't just say, well, that's just for the police and the maintenance courts and so on to deal with, because it's not working. And say that professionals like us who are actually going through this and are struggling and are not able to make it in the career place, in the workplace, as well as people who don't have these troubles. But I think that we need to think about how do we actually support people who are in that situation, or people who are struggling to enforce protection orders. All sorts of things are happening in people's personal lives that are not discussed and not dealt with. And perhaps we should start talking about that as a way to empower each other. Maybe we need to make legal services available. Maybe we need to go and talk to experts about how we can support the maintenance courts and get these things right, so that it doesn't undermine women as much as it does. And as I say, it happens to people in my profession, with my same level of career and so on, it happens to poor people, it happens to domestic workers. It's just, and it is undermining our progress in an enormous way.
It segues beautifully into the next topic of conversation I wanted to have today. And Rose is getting a lot of applause on her comment, and certainly I think possibly an opportunity for a bigger and wider conversation on that. But I want to move to financial products and investment products here. And we know the research, I mean, it's Women's Month. We've read all the stuff during the month about how women retire with less than men, and it has a number of reasons. And replacement ratios are less than men because of that, and we live longer than men. So, we really have a double whammy. But maths is maths, right? So in this world of kind of hyper-personalization of product, hyper-personalization of services, Cherie, do you think we should have different products for men and for women?
It's a good question. And I think there is a place for it, but it comes with a caveat. So I think there's a place from a personal perspective. I like investments that solve specific problems for me, or where I see innovation or disruption. And it's a cliche example, but investing into a business like YouCook would be great for me. There's another business that I quite like called Fertility. It's a femtech company that does home screening for hormones and fertility. And a lot of these opportunities sit in the alt space, where obviously there's a different discussion to the discussion around women and closing the financial gap. Alternatives have a great role to play in that, but access is often a problem. I'm not a fan of pinkwashing, so kind of generic funds that masquerade as being marketed to women. I think that's a bit patronizing. But I think the question should be, do we actually need products for women, or do we need smarter advice and smarter marketing so that we can actually position women as capable investors and educate them in a different way? Women are more curious about understanding financial products. The advice needs are quite different. And we need to stop, I guess, marketing women as the budgeters of the family, but the wealth builders as well. And I think as women, we should also overcome our own biases. It's often touted that women are less risk averse, but it's actually shown that women are better long-term investors. And if we worry less about short-term financial security and think about building our wealth holistically and open ourselves out to that, then places like private equity investing becomes a much bigger discussion and can help you in the long term. So yeah, I think to look at advice and financial products with a gender lens definitely has its value. And I think the world is moving towards that as well. I think it's the statistics been published that women will control more than 50% of the world wealth in the next decade or so. And if that is so, then we need to, as an industry, adjust how we speak to women so that it becomes more relatable. Change talking about alpha and benchmarks, talk more about legacy building, flexibility, which is what women need as well.
Lindy, in the corporate benefits space, your thoughts? I can see the poll, you can see it's almost 50-50. It kind of switches and keeps changing as people are answering. But in the employee benefits space, or in the corporate benefits space, any thoughts around personalizing messaging, communication products between men and women?
Thanks. So I think I'm going to agree with Cherie. Personally, and based on some of the stats we've seen around claims, where you see that women claim less than males, and even in banking as well, not just insurance. I think it's more about access. So information and access. So when you're providing information to women, understanding that we all start off, male or female, we start off with being human. So there's global needs that we have. Financial needs are across the board, but the access to the information is what I would focus on. So if I think about our financial literacy programs and how we run those, when we taking live examples of mothers who are the only breadwinners, or women who are opening up new businesses as SMMEs, and we provide for those with information about how to run your business, information about, do you understand what benefits you're sitting with in your life cover? Have you thought about your critical illness cover? Have you thought about income protection in an environment that we have in South Africa? So I think access is the big one. Women need to have more access to the information. We need to drive more examples of how people can benefit from the products and services that we offer, both in banking and in insurance. And I think more than anything else, we should be starting in schools. That's where it starts to land and make sense. Talking to someone who's already 50, yes, they can change quite a bit still towards their retirement. They can change maybe even their covers and understand their benefits better. But how much more powerful if I can make my decisions at an early age, because I have enough information and I've been educated about it, in line with everything else that we educate our students in schools with. Just as important as any other maths class or life orientation class is a financial literacy class that takes you through your whole life and milestones in your life about what you're going to face and therefore what you need to know.
Such a great point, financial literacy and bringing it into schools. And it's something that we've seen, a message that we've seen coming up a lot. And at EBnet Kids, we've put together some content for people to go and watch little videos with your kids talking about things like compound interest, etc. And really having the roots, right, of a good conversation for plants that will grow as these kids go through life. And sometimes I think as professionals, we forget how much we know, and we always take it for granted. Oh, everyone knows this stuff. Eva, financial planning when it comes to ladies. A question for you, and again, we're going to roll out the last poll for today, and thanks for everybody for participating. But this wording around messaging is different for males and females. What would your top financial tip for women be?
I mean, it would be to just start. We're often waiting for the perfect career, the perfect timing, or perhaps even trying to time the market. Things are bad now. There's, all these wars, and maybe I should wait for things to get better. I think the best advice is to just start. Even if you're not earning what you were hoping to be earning. I mean, this can, brings us back to the previous questions of just ask and stand up for yourself. And, that's a separate issue. But if you just start and you keep it consistent, I think that is really key, because even small, savings just every single month with, the benefits of compounding can lead to, great results over the long term. And then again, to the conversation that we just had around education, educate yourself around the most cost-effective and tax-effective ways to save. So use low-cost indexing when you're saving as part of your portfolio, and use the products, tax-free savings accounts, retirement annuities. So educate yourself around those products, and there's so much free information out there. So again, there's no need to spend a fortune, to get that sort of information. That information is available at your fingertips, but start now, start small, and we don't have to wait for the perfect time.
It's, I'm looking at the poll where I'm seeing that 59% of those who responded are saying that they do have a formal financial plan. 41% of them don't. And the reason for that was not to get anybody into trouble. These are anonymous, but was again to open this door to permission around, I'm the girl in the family, I don't need my own financial plan, or financial planning is only for wealthy people. And really to kind of show everybody that we're all struggling with these things. So, Lindy, would you perhaps like to talk about financial planning for women and the permission that they should seek within their households to start taking control over the money? Not control, but over their money.
Yeah, I think firstly, South Africa is a diverse country with lots of cultural nuances, but there's no woman who should be asked to be seeking permission to look after themselves, right? Whether you're sitting in the rural areas or in the township or own a farm or own a business or an executive in some company or a teacher, every single one of us have a right to take care of ourselves first. And financial planning is a first step. I think it was Fatima Eleon who spoke about self-advocacy as, it was Cherie who spoke about self-advocacy as self-care. Financial planning is self-care. If something goes wrong in my life, I need to have planned for myself. And that access to that financial planning differs, of course, with where we are, maybe in terms of class or even where we're situated in this country. But there's a lot of information available to be able to do that. I'll just give you a quick example. My mom used to work in a factory, a sewing factory, and she earned about 350 rands per week. And she would put aside 50 rands for savings and she will spend the 300 rand. And my dad used to say, you're not going to be able to open your own bank account. I'll open a bank account, and each time you need to go buy something for the kids, I must write a letter and authorize that you're going to go and get whatever you need to go and buy. It's unthinkable that something like that would happen in our country, or even that there are women who live like that now, but they are. And I think our role is, especially for those who have the information, is to spread the word as far as we can about it is our human right to be financially independent, and we have every right to take care of ourselves and our kids and our families, including our husbands and partners, etc., by being self-sufficient.
We thank you very much for that. I love that we don't need permission to look after ourselves. Rose, you had your hand up, and I'm cognizant of time, so perhaps we can give everybody 30 seconds for a wrap up. But you had your hand up, so you can go first.
I'll try and be quick. I think that one of the things that makes me cross is when you talk about that we don't have a savings culture in this country. The fact is that we have billions getting saved in stokvels. Maybe we need to move towards supporting stokvels, empowering stokvels, educating those who are in charge of stokvels so that they can help, because they're designed to help you to plan for school fees, to provide for start up businesses, to deal with funerals. They do a lot of things, and often it's women and it's collective and economic empowerment. Yes. We should be finding ways. Yes, maybe they need better regulation, but maybe we do education through them, and maybe consumer financial education is, and also to talk about the hard conversations. Can you afford to slaughter a car every time somebody dies, or is that going to set your family back financially? And those kind of conversations should be happening between women or between whoever's involved in the stokvel, so that it's not somebody lecturing you. It's let's have discussions around these kinds of challenges and find ways to empower each other, because that's where it's happening. I think that's a big financial service that has been ignored in many ways, I think.
It's definitely been picked up in the latest research. Yeah. Eva, you are next on my screen, so would you like to wrap up with a comment?
Yeah, I mean, my comment is I feel very strongly about closing the pay gap. And we spoke about that a little bit earlier on as well, about how to ask for a raise, and at the beginning about being, quite shy as women to actually ask for things or brag. So if I could give a little piece of advice out there, if you don't want to ask or even write a letter to ask for a raise, I think that we can just showcase how valuable we are, and there's many measurable ways to do that. So I think that you can showcase to, your employers just how valuable you are to them. You can show measurable ways that you're contributing to the business, show all of that evidence. And, that in itself can also lead to pay raises and, close this gap that we have.
Not to take the words out of your mouth, but I recently had a conversation with a managing director, a female managing director of one of our clients, and she described this as being able to describe your worth, your commercial worth in your performance reviews, and it's such a brilliant way of encapsulating it. So now it's not about feelings and emotions and look how good I am. It's about this is what the worth and the value that I represent. And so that I'll be launching that on EBnet Stream next week. Cherie, final comments.
Yes, thank you. I think for me, it's about speaking up. I think that's all you can do in terms of self-advocacy. But I also want to recognize that the industry we operate in is very complex and opaque, and I don't think one can underestimate that. So I think for us to kind of pay it forward and mentor young women in particular to build their confidence, so that they have the confidence and self-belief to actually speak up and advocate for themselves. So I don't underestimate the power of mentoring, and we actually in Prescient have our own mentorship initiative for women to help build their self-confidence to manage their careers. We challenge them, talk about topics like asking for a raise. And it all starts there because it shows as well that we're a community, we're in it together. So yeah, I think just to summarize, for me, advocacy is like flying your own plane. And if you don't lock in your flight plan, and you don't communicate with the crew and the passengers, you're going to end up in the wilderness. So rather chart your own course, and just have fun as well while you're doing it. It doesn't always have to be serious, and learn and grow. I think that's all you can try and do for yourself so that you can thrive wherever you are.
Thank you. I'm giggling because Daryl says it's time for the school run. So you have permission. Fatima, final comments?
Yeah, I'll take the full. I think we've got like 30 seconds left, but I love Rosemary's comment and I want to rope that in because I've just completed a project on the township economy and women are doing amazing things across South Africa's 550 townships. You know, the Capitec CEO recently talked about unemployment and women are driving these fantastic businesses and generating employment for thousands of people that South Africans just don't know about. And, you know, we're so isolated from actually being part of that. But one of the areas that I've always found really concerning about us in the asset management industry is that we hold a lot of power when it comes to stewardship, and we don't exercise our active stewardship, especially women ourselves. We don't go and look at investing in companies that are that improve the lives of women and girls. Or we don't go to a listed company AGMs and talk about resolutions relating to women. So from a closing perspective, I'd like to say that we must use the power of stewardship to bring about the change that we're looking for. Thank you.
Lovely lens. Lindy, as our sponsors of today, Liberty Corporate Benefits gets the last word. If you'd like to wrap up with a closing comment.
Sure. I think that we might not have all the same conditions for thriving, but that doesn't make any woman a victim. We have to take accountability for our own growth and our own development, and we do need to speak up and have a voice because no one is going to give us that permission. We have to take it ourselves. And financial literacy for me is a big enabler into having that voice because you have information and also you gain the confidence when you have the information. And so it's our responsibility and accountability to take care of ourselves, the rest of the daughters that we have out there, and the generations that will look up to us to go, what did you do? You know, what did you do with the power and the authority that you had? How did you use it to enable the rest of us.
I love that, and a powerful, powerful way to end a really great conversation. And thank you to everybody for taking the time to listen to us, to our audience, but also thank you to the panelists today. I really appreciate the open conversation that we're able to have. And hopefully by seeing conversations like this, more and more people will have what I think is one of the problems, the confidence to say they're doing the school run, or they have a sick child at home, or whatever the parenting responsibility might be. These conversations are very important. And I echo somebody in the chat, it's gone now because it's kind of going fast. Everybody's obviously dropping off for meetings. But I echo, this conversation needs to be had beyond Women's Month. And I'm looking forward to bringing that to our community at EBnet. So thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you to our great panelists for your time today. I appreciate every one of you making the effort to join us today. Thank you specifically to Liberty Corporate Benefit for their sponsorship for today. Without sponsorships, as I mentioned in the beginning, these types of quality conversations wouldn't be possible. So thank you. And to everybody on the call who's still on the call, please go and subscribe to our daily newsletter. Please go follow us on LinkedIn, and we'll make sure that we keep bringing you great content. So without any more, have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
At Liberty Corporate Benefits, we believe that better benefits are better for business. That's why our holistic employee benefits give your employees financial security and lifestyle stability, freeing them up to be their best selves at work. With satisfied, engaged employees, productivity shoots up, workplace errors and loss decrease, absenteeism and presenteeism are reduced, and you attract and retain the best and brightest talent. After all, if you take care of your people, they'll take care of your business. Our brilliant basics are the non-negotiables that explain why more companies choose us than any other for employee benefits. Our employee benefits are easy and flexible, personal and relevant, and resource-backed, with investment solutions designed to help your employees retire comfortably. Comprehensive cover that protects your employees and their families. Financial literacy initiatives to help your employees make the most of their money. And a range of value-added services for holistic care and support. We make it easy to take care of your people and prove that employee benefits can also be employer benefits. Speak to us about getting the benefit advantage. Liberty Corporate Benefits.